Volvemos ahora en este cuarto día de nuestra South Colon Internet Governance con un tema súper importante que ha pasado con la brecha de género, que es una...
Okay, we're going to start with the gender-based context and what happened during the dynamic, if it worsened, if it improved, what happened with women at home, with their families, with their children, that had to share these sort of resources. And for these purposes, we have a very excellent panel moderated by a friend of ours that is in Mexico and a friend of the ICT girls that she coordinates a group, as a matter of fact, that is called Mexico Connected. And we have a joint collaboration with her. So I'll hear from Elena Estavillo, who is the responsible for the Society Center of the Future. And I'm sure that you can see her past experience in our website. Elena, welcome. Thank you for being the moderator. We have ARANTXA, Désireé. We'll hear from Isabel as well. Elena, without further ado, I'll give the floor an hour or two so you can moderate this panel. You know this full well. And that's why we have the honor and privilege to have you all here. So let's welcome you all, and at the end I'm gonna read out some questions in the Q&A. Okay, those questions from the students. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Olga. It's a great privilege to be here sharing this panel addressing an essential key issue that is crucial for us, of what is happening with the gender gap in ICT during the pandemic. As Olga explained, we will hear from experts who are going to, from different points of view, are going to contribute her opinions to find possible solutions to these issues. With ARANTXA, we'll hear from Isabel, Désireé, and Sulyna. And also we will screen a video from Sulyna, Abdullah, who's going to give us a key message to address later on another panel where we can discuss further ideas. Now, let's bring this topic to the table and address generally the state of the art of where we stand with gender gap during the pandemic after these months in ICT.
Les comparto mi pantalla.
These issues. Okay, good. What is going on? What is changing with the gender gap in ICT? Where do we stand in gender-based gaps? Here we have some indicators that issue some wake-up calls, because the health crisis have impacted negatively in the struggle, the historical struggle to close the gender-based gaps, the opportunity gaps, the access gaps. Now, the World Economic Forum on a yearly basis publishes a very important report on global gender gap that has important indicators, and it reports the time that it will take us to reach equality if you follow this path or the current roadmap. Before the pandemic, we argue that we will reach equality by 2156, which was a very gloomy scenario. However, we were warned that the recent perspective with the World Economic Forum, they said that this has extended that we'll have to wait till 2156. Before it was the year 2021, right now 2056. If we understand what was the loss of income by women during the pandemic, well, it accounts for 800,000. It would be $800 billion, equivalent to GDP of many countries. How would you explain this backlash for women? Because these are situations that are close to our hearts, because we take part in the informal sector of the economy, which was the most affected by the crisis and the least supported by governments. There's a gap in informal employment. Here you can clearly see in this map in color coding. In green, you can see the largest gap. So you have this in developing countries. In blue, you have more women that are part of this informal sector. On the other hand, before the pandemic, culturally speaking, women did 3 times more unpaid work than men. And given the situation, the unpaid employment increased because of the additional health hygiene measures, because of schools being closed, and the saturation of hospital occupancy. And the strategies that address the pandemic haven't taken into account the gender-based perspective. So the care has been reduced significantly in women. Also, there has been a lack of flexibility in the labor markets, and there have been excluding environments that have taken women directly to the informal sector of the economy. So what is the COVID-19 effect, and how does it impact on gender-based ICTs? One may argue that we can address the gender-based ICT index published by Ericsson. It's an index that reports inequalities and the gap among those that are connected or the ones that lack connectivity. In this sector of the connected people, the index reports how they use services, the use to devices, and the time they spend online. All these factors add up to a digital maturity index. The index reports that among the people that are connected, the time online is more or less the same, or is reaching equality. So there's more or less equal participation between women and men. So this gender-based gap has been reduced in the connected people. Now, in the service use evolution, we can follow the same trends because women has been using their devices more intensively and more sophisticatedly. They are doing remote work, they're studying through e-learning, online shopping, and health service accesses. So they closed the gap, they have closed the gap in time and use. And this is just for the women that are connected. However, there's the other side of the coin, because we anticipate lower access to devices and services because the pandemic has widened the gap of gender-based income and health, so it restricts the capacity or the capability of women to pay for invoices, for devices, and for services. So there's a series of contrasting effects. On the one hand, you have the gender-based gaps that are significant. For example, if we assess them from economically point of views, socially, labor markets or income, that has increased. For those that are connected in the use or in tapping digital services, this has been decreasing. However, the Gender-based access digital gap has increased in services and devices. So this situation has become more exacerbated, and those that were connected, faced with the difficulties or the added difficulties of those that are not connected, and this is a population that is on the rise in certain communities or groups, speaks of a larger inequality. It tells us that we have a great challenge of us. So we should have highly focused strategies on these topics. Women that are not connected, we need to address access to services and devices, drive abilities, skills, and relevant content. But for those women that are connected, we need to drive the agency, ownership capacity, and also skills that are typical of women, our own, even though we are using services intensively to have access. At the same time, one can see that women are joining the informal sector and they're having lower salaries. So here you have the phenomenon of using services but for needs that are not of their own but for others. And this is strictly linked to the workload that they have in caring for others. ICTs are partners in the recovery because it allows to improve the quality of life, providing a better access with positive things. But at the same time, they are powerful tools for growth. It provides resilience to their economy. It allows to create opportunities to adapt to the new realities. They promote productivity and innovation. However, access, use, and design of these technologies is not gender neutral. That's why it needs to be included in our policy making. Just by way of an example, there's a huge divide in the design and the creation of technology. Only 22% of AI professionals are women. And in working teams where there's no diversity or gender diversity, you create a vicious circle with apps and with systems and with teams that replicate discriminatory behaviors, biases, and stereotypes that are among women, which strengthen the barriers to access and tapping these sort of technologies. We have a huge challenge that we're faced with. One is to be inserted once again in the path of growth that way before we had joined before the pandemic, and we need to close that gender-based gap. And instead of a trade-off, we argue that it's essential to recover what has been lost and to activate or reactivate sustainable economic recovery by incorporating gender-based perspective, which is transversal and right now is a pressing issue more than ever. Now, having said deep diving in this with this background and preliminary text, I will address the video from the UIT, the International Telecommunication Union.
Ladies and gentlemen, only 57% of households have access to the internet. 44% of individuals in developing countries are using the internet. In the Americas region, it ranges from approximately 33 to 95% of the population. Approximately 55% of the world's male population use the internet, compared with 48% of the female population. While in developed economies, gender parity has been reached, in least developed countries, the share of men using the internet is twice the proportion of women. COVID-19 has led to unheard of restrictions on people's mobility and has opened the door to the use of digital technology in ways never before imagined. So it is a pleasure to participate in this conference with you today and speak on the importance of tackling the gender-digital divide to unlock innovation that accelerates digital transformation for all. I would like to touch upon 3 areas in this regard: the importance of digital skills and literacy, the need to enable women's leadership in the digital sphere, and the role of multi-stakeholder partnerships and collaboration to enable an equitable digital transformation that benefits everyone. First, on digital literacy and skills. Today, 90% of jobs require digital literacy. As a result, the digital revolution and the 21st century labor market presents both opportunities and challenges for women and girls. The digitalization of the job market can create new dimensions of exclusion through economic, social, cultural, and gender segregation, for instance. By acquiring digital skills, women and girls will have better employment and entrepreneurship opportunities. They can also contribute to their families' incomes and a more inclusive society. At the grassroots level, ITU, in partnership with Cisco, has established a network of digital transformation centers to deliver basic digital skills to underserved and marginalized communities. In the first phase, more than 80,000 individuals received training, out of which 65% were women. This brings me to my second point on women leadership. There is an alarming absence of women's voices at the table when the products and services that increasingly shape our world are being conceived and developed. All perspectives, including women's, are important so that technology evolves in a way that benefits us all. Boosting women's leadership is also necessary to achieve gender equality in the workplace, especially where tech-related jobs have been misleadingly perceived to be reserved for men. However, as digitalization creates an enormous impact on the labor market, it brings with it some promises for new and enabling roles for women to participate in socio-economic activities. Digital innovations for small, women-owned businesses can have an especially significant effect, reducing the effects of gender biases and discrimination in technology and trade. Allowing women to reap the benefits of access to international markets and equal economic opportunities can add up to $28 trillion to the world's GDP. And this is why ITU, along with our partners, have a range of initiatives to provide women with ICT leadership skills that allow them to go beyond being users to becoming creators of technology. And this is tied to my final point on the vital role of multi-stakeholder collaboration to close the gender-digital divide. A few years ago, ITU, along with partners like GSMA, UN Women, and UN University, co-founded the Equals Global Partnership. Through Equals, with over 100 members now, we work to reduce the gender gap in female leadership in tech and to empower women businesses with the knowledge and skills to be a part of the wave of digital transformation that is gripping the world. We train and mentor women to create tech businesses and take up leadership roles in tech companies. We address regulatory and policy barriers that limit women's ability to access and monetize opportunities in the tech industry. And we support multi-stakeholder cooperation. Additionally, recognizing that innovation and technology are engines to advance gender equality, ITU launched the Women in Technology Innovation Challenge. Through this event, ITU and partners from Equals supported standout female tech innovators who are making a difference in their communities. Last year, ITU became a member of the Generation Equality Technology and Innovation Action Coalition, a process convened by UN Women, and we are working with partners to ensure our work supports generation equality goals. Harnessing the power of innovative and smart partnerships brings with it a vital diversity of perspectives, resources, and approaches to problem solving. Ladies and gentlemen, ITU is committed to working with a range of stakeholders to close the gender digital divide and realize the innovative potential that women can bring to the digitalization that is sweeping our nations. Let us join forces to ensure that women are inspired and empowered to take their place as equal, skilled leaders in driving global digital transformation. Thank you.
Gracias por este mensaje tan poderoso de la importancia de impulsar la creatividad, el trabajo, la iniciativa de las mujeres desde diferentes puntos de vista y con apoyo en diferentes actores, desde brindar las habilidades necesarias, pero también impulsar esta creatividad, esta experiencia de quienes ya tienen proyectos y están dando resultados, ponerlas en este empoderamiento del que hablamos, ¿no? Quitar las barreras para que puedan hacer realidad y que juntos, podamos cerrar esta brecha en beneficio de todas las personas. Pues bueno, entonces ahora pasamos a un panel, a una plática que seguramente será muy rica y muy interesante, donde tenemos el gusto de poder hablar con Isabel Cristina de Ávila, como ya había mencionado, gerente de dominio.co y Gobernaza de Internet en Colombia, con ARANTXA GUILLÉN, gerente de campañas y programas para América Latina de Facebook, y esperando también que se incorpore, que se pueda incorporar Désireé Miloshevic, que es Policy Advisor en Donuts Inc. Y pues para esta plática estaremos guiándola a lo largo de una serie de preguntas para inspirar este debate. Y entonces empezaría con Isabel, por favor. ¿Cuáles ves, Isabel, que son los retos que se han hecho apremiantes en la pandemia para que las mujeres emprendedoras digitalicen sus negocios?
Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Primero que todo, agradecer a todas ustedes por haber hecho parte de este panel tan interesante, a este evento en donde el Ministerio de Tecnologías de Información y Comunicaciones, por segunda vez en estas 13 veces que se ha desarrollado en Latinoamérica, es el anfitrión, porque reconocemos la importancia del Internet para la vida, no solamente de los colombianos, sino de todos los ciudadanos en el mundo. Y por supuesto, agradecer por tener dentro de la agenda un tema como lo habías planteado, Elena, tan importante como es el tema de la equidad de género en las tecnologías de información y comunicaciones. Y dando alcance a la pregunta que me haces, quiero primero realizar un contexto de cómo Colombia ha venido durante los últimos años enfatizando la importancia de acelerar, de promocionar e implementar estrategias y políticas tendientes a la equidad de género, sobre todo en este último cuatrenio y mucho más en estos últimos 2 años, donde el flagelo de la pandemia, como lo resaltaste en tu intervención, ha sido completamente devastador en materia de empleabilidad, de educación y muchas otras materias para las mujeres. El gobierno ha sido muy reiterativo y beligerante en la promoción de las políticas de equidad de género. Tenemos hoy día un Plan Nacional de Colombia, que es como el mapa de ruta de proyectos y estrategias de este gobierno, que incluye un capítulo específico de equidad de género que se denomina el Pacto de Equidad para las Mujeres. El año pasado en nuestro país se aprobó una ley dirigida al emprendimiento y que contiene elementos o medidas específicas para fomentar la participación de las mujeres dentro del ecosistema empresarial. Contiene o determina esta ley requisitos diferenciales para los procesos de contratación que favorecen a las mujeres o promocionan la participación de las mujeres. Se crea el Fondo Mujer Emprende para canalizar recursos públicos y privados destinados a empresarias y emprendedoras mujeres. El Ministerio de Tecnologías de Información y Comunicaciones, dentro de su paquete de medidas para la reactivación económica del país, tiene iniciativas y proyectos que fomentan la participación de las mujeres en el contexto económico y apalanca su desarrollo, su posicionamiento y consolidación. En el tema de dominio, por supuesto, tenemos a través de la apuesta de 100.000dominios.co, donde queremos entregar 100.000 herramientas digitales a 100.000 empresarios y emprendedores, tenemos el desafío de que el 25% de estas entregas se haga a empresarias y a emprendedoras mujeres. En Colombia el 96% de nuestra base empresarial son MIPYMES, es decir, micro, pequeñas y medianas compañías. Y solo el 11.7% de estas tienen una estrategia de transformación digital. Le estamos apostando dentro del Ministerio de Tecnologías de Información y Comunicaciones ampliar ese indicador, pero también promover dentro del contexto de género, crear infraestructuras fuertes y sólidas, pero que se puedan adaptar a los cambios del mercado. Y para esto también tenemos todo un paquete de iniciativas alrededor de la transferencia de conocimiento en habilidades relacionadas con TIC que contribuyen también para la independencia y el empoderamiento de las mujeres y por supuesto que tengamos muchas más mujeres empresarias. Hoy día en Colombia tenemos 63% de empresarios y emprendedores frente al 38% de empresarias y emprendedoras. Entonces, a través de una iniciativa que se llama Por TIC Mujer, acompañamos en esta formación en materias de tecnología que permita que evidentemente podamos impactar positivamente estas cifras. Nuestras apuestas en el Ministerio de Tecnologías de Información y Comunicaciones tratan de combinar no solamente el acceso al Internet o promover el acceso al Internet o mayor acceso al Internet, sino también la apropiación y la implementación de las herramientas digitales y con toda esta estructura de alfabetización digital, maximizar ese beneficio a ese acceso y a esa implementación a las tecnologías. También desde la Vicepresidencia de la República en Colombia se ha creado un programa de mentorías a emprendimientos y a empresas lideradas por mujeres. Durante el año pasado yo estuve de mentora de 4 proyectos muy interesantes ubicados a nivel local que a través de un acompañamiento para la transformación digital o para implementar iniciativas de transformación digital, lo que queríamos es realizar un crecimiento, un posicionamiento y mayor competitividad de esos negocios. Y estamos hablando de estrategias que se han desarrollado en plena pandemia. El Ministerio de Trabajo, por ejemplo, tiene una ruta de empleabilidad con formación para el trabajo dirigido exclusivamente a mujeres para impactar positivamente nuestras cifras de desempleo femenino en el país, que como lo han reiterado mis antecesoras, colegas, ha sido bastante complicado y significativo y sobre todo por el advenimiento de este COVID-19. También Colombia ha generado un contexto normativo importante alrededor de la promoción de las políticas de equidad de género. Tenemos desde el 2000 la ley 581 que ha dispuesto que el 30% de los cargos públicos van o pertenecen o deben estar dirigidos a las mujeres. Entonces esto nos ha significado que, por ejemplo, la cartera de tecnología en los últimos 4 años ha estado representada por mujeres. El índice global de brecha de género que lo mencionaba Elena al inicio de su conversación ubica a Colombia en el puesto 22 de una muestra de 153 países con una puntuación de 0,75 y está midiendo áreas como salud, como educación, como economía, política. La primera posición obviamente la ostenta Islandia con 0,87. Colombia está avanzando en este desafío hacia una sociedad 50 y 50. Estamos haciendo la tarea, Elena y demás participantes de este panel, pero nos falta un camino enorme por recorrer. Pero yo creo que alrededor de todas estas iniciativas, alrededor de esta apuesta de esta industria por impactar empresas y emprendimientos con tecnología liderados por mujeres, alrededor de un ordenamiento jurídico que permite fomentar estas políticas de equidad de género, vamos a tener muy pronto unos índices importantes en materia de paridad en nuestro país.
Muchísimas gracias, Isabel. Es inspirador y sin duda nos muestran muchísimas acciones modelo a seguir. Y además qué gusto estar viendo el resultado de estas acciones, que se necesitan acciones enfocadas en indicadores concretos que van avanzando en los temas de igualdad. Bueno, entonces ahora ARANTXA, ¿nos podrías contar? Sé también por parte de Facebook que cuentan con iniciativas muy interesantes para apoyar a las mujeres a adquirir habilidades digitales. ¿Nos podrías contar un poco de eso?
Claro que sí. Muchas gracias, Elena, por la introducción y la pregunta. Y bueno, también, antes que nada, gracias a la Escuela del Sur de Gobernanza de Internet por la invitación, a la audiencia que hoy nos escucha y, claro, Isabel, Désireé y Sulyna, con quienes comparto este panel, y que creo que es un recordatorio muy importante que promover esta igualdad y la inclusión social y el desarrollo económico general a través de tecnología debe movilizar a toda la sociedad. Entonces, les agradezco y bueno, respecto a tu pregunta, Elena, para platicarles un poquito sobre estas iniciativas, voy a abonar un poquito más a lo que ya nos compartieron, bueno, nos compartiste tú, Elena, y también Isabel, sobre el contexto que vemos y por el cual constantemente en Facebook decidimos invertir en iniciativas para acortar la brecha de género, ¿no? Entonces, primero que nada, hemos visto en diferentes investigaciones como las comisionadas por ONU Mujeres, que también las mencionabas tú, que las mujeres siguen experimentando mayores tasas de desempleo, un panorama que claro se agravó con la pandemia. También, según investigaciones del Banco de Desarrollo de América Latina, si las mujeres se incorporaran masivamente al mundo laboral, el PIB de la región aumentaría hasta un 34%. Y también vemos que, de acuerdo al reporte global sobre el estado de las pequeñas empresas que comisionamos y creamos en colaboración con la OSDE, el Banco Mundial y, bueno, y Facebook, que se publicó en marzo del 2020, nos menciona que los negocios con dirección femenina son 7 puntos porcentuales más propensos a cerrar que los negocios liderados por hombres. Y es más probable que se encuentren entre los sectores más afectados por las restricciones sanitarias de la COVID-19 que hemos enfrentado en esta región, ¿no? Y todo este pequeño preámbulo para dimensionar el enorme potencial que las mujeres tienen para contribuir al crecimiento económico de América Latina. Además, como menciona en el reporte de mujeres, el empoderamiento económico de las mujeres es vital para lograr el cumplimiento de los derechos de las mujeres y la igualdad de género. Y bueno, por esto y por el compromiso a largo plazo que tiene Facebook hacia el empoderamiento económico de las mujeres, nosotros desarrollamos el programa de Ellas e Historia, que tiene como objetivo empoderar a las mujeres a través del desarrollo de habilidades digitales y de educación financiera empresarial para que puedan empezar o impulsar o crecer sus negocios, ¿no? De forma y estar más inmersos en la economía digital. Este programa ha apoyado a más de 1.5 millones de mujeres alrededor de todo el mundo desde su lanzamiento en el 2016 y en América Latina ha llegado a más de 300,000 mujeres, ha apoyado a más de 300,000 mujeres a adquirir habilidades digitales y de educación financiera empresarial que les permiten empezar o bueno, escalar su negocio, ¿no? Como estaría mencionando. El programa en sí consta de capacitaciones virtuales. Antes eran presenciales, claro, pero con la pandemia migramos a capacitaciones virtuales. Y estas capacitaciones están de la mano de aliados locales, en donde enseñamos, digamos, cómo Facebook y su familia de aplicaciones pueden ayudar a empezar gratuitamente su negocio en línea, cómo mejoras las estrategias de servicio al cliente a través de la mensajería instantánea, cómo fijas costos, precios, metas de tus negocios, cómo manejas tus finanzas durante crisis, entre otros temas. Por ejemplo, en los talleres vemos cómo los anuncios personalizados son una forma a través de las cuales las mujeres emprendedoras pueden disfrutar de un servicio que les permite conectarse con nuevos clientes. Así expanden su alcance y incrementan sus ventas, ¿no? Por ejemplo, un ejemplo rápido, en Claudia Magdaleno, en México, fundadora de Cherry Pink, tiene una tienda en línea de trajes de baño y que le atribuye la mayor parte de sus ventas, alrededor del 70%, a los anuncios personalizados de Facebook e Instagram y a las campañas de marketing, ¿no? Su negocio pasó de ser una tienda para amigos y familiares de 3 empleados y obtuvo más de 5 millones en ventas, ¿no? En 2020. Entonces, bueno, esta es una iniciativa y también en el marco en el 2021, en el marco del Día de las Niñas en TIC, dimos inicio al desarrollo de un programa de la mano con la Unión Internacional de Telecomunicaciones, America's Girls Can Code, el nombre del programa, a través del cual buscamos promover las habilidades digitales, este pensamiento computacional y bueno, capacitaciones que puedan promover nuevas oportunidades profesionales en carreras STEM, por ejemplo, en América Latina, ¿no? Y bueno, ambos programas son desarrollados gracias a las alianzas que hacemos con organizaciones locales, regionales e internacionales, como CREA y Mujer Emprende en México, Colnodo en Colombia, Voces Vitales en Argentina, la UIT a nivel regional y claro, la OEA también a nivel regional, que con ellos realizamos con la OEA en las semanas anteriores, lanzamos un centro de formación digital con recursos de aprendizaje gratuitos para las mujeres en toda América Latina, que está disponible en español, inglés y portugués. Y bueno, esas son como que dos de las iniciativas principales. Y bueno, estos programas otorgan a las mujeres esta habilidad de participar equitativamente en los mercados existentes, incrementan la voz, el sentido de autonomía y participación en la toma de decisiones económicas. Y bueno, para ejemplificar un poquito más esto, me gustaría compartir un video sobre Carolina Moscoso, una emprendedora creadora de rulla artesanías en Colombia, para que conozcan un poquito también de su historia, ¿no? Entonces, ¿sí? ¿Me ayudan con el video, porfa?
My name is Carolina Moscoso, and my business is called Rusha. Rusha is a family business, it's Colombian. We capture the dreams. Rusha makes the allusion to our dreams. We provide accessories elaborated with our Japanese chair. We offer earrings, necklaces, bracelets. Facebook, WhatsApp, personal ads are important because this is our major tool. It is very important to have this business because it lives of virtuality, and this is the way we have been used to sell. The impact on COVID-19 was very difficult to manage because the way that we used was different from what we did in the past. Now, in connection with our business, it made us think of other business to make progress, to sell. So, this program gave us a very, very good, fast, quick immersion course on how to use social media and allowed us to train us in finance, cash flows, also inventory. It was very, very important for us so we could understand and to be more solid from the very beginning. And I know that we can make this dream possible in the future. I believe these training programs are supportive of women and that make us be more confident to have a good driving force if we are shown the way. And, you know, if we can do it, just do it. Fantastic your experience. I would like to share it with you.
In these cases, we can see how useful are these projects and these ideas. Now, I'm going to give the floor to Désireé. Welcome, Désireé. I would like to ask you, how can we help get women into designing and creating new technologies? Thanks, Elena. Thanks for the invitation to the South School of Internet Governance. I'm going to speak in English so that...
So I'll start in English answering the question. Thank you so much for the question. I'll just repeat it also in English. What you're actually asking me is how can we help insert more women in the design and creation of technology. And I wanted to share some of my own experiences since I've been in that sector for quite some time. I believe that, first of all, there are huge challenges, and there's, as we have heard from everyone else, a huge gender gap and digital gender divide. And to address this issue of this gender digital divide, I think we need first to look not just at the challenges and who can help, who are the stakeholders that can help close this gap. We also need some change in the culture as well, in some of the values that we share. Primarily, I think that we do not think enough of the good role models that we have for women that are already in technology. When you go to school, have you heard of Ida Holtz from Uruguay? Who's been inducted into the Internet Hall of Fame? Or I haven't been taught about Angela Robles, that invented the very first ebook, but she was a teacher and no funding to then patent her invention. And there is a huge role of a very big number of women who contributed to the ICT and the computer science and technology. So I think to help insert more women in the design, we need to teach them about role models and to support them, be very supportive in their desires. It's in Europe, for example, I believe only 18% of women work in the ICT sector. And about 17% are students in the ICT technologies and computer science. So it's quite a small number compared to the rest. And we need to be creative and we need to be supportive. And I said it comes not just from government initiatives, but also from private sector, from your community, from your schools, teachers. When you start from an early age, you need to know who is Ada Lovelace, the first computer scientist who helped Charles Babbage make a first, what looked then like a computer, and she invented algorithms. And we really need to know that women are powerful when supported, when the right values are in the right environment surrounding us.
Muchas gracias, Désireé.
Thank you, Désireé. What you are saying is really important. It's very valuable. How we need to see women or to think about women that are role models and that have been working on technology. And it is important to make them known and so that they can be seen. Actually, that is one of the path that we are fostering in Connected. We are convinced of the importance of seeing those role models so that young women can be inspired by them. So now, let's go to a second round of questions. This is going to be quick so that we can have a few minutes for the Q&A at the end of the session. So I'm going to ask you to be very brief in your answers. Maybe take only a minute for answering. That would be great. Now I'm going to start with ARANTXA. Please tell us which were the main obstacles when giving training and how did you manage to surpass those obstacles? Thanks, Elena. To answer that question, I would like to emphasize the importance of our allies in the field. They have an important role in facing the challenges in each country and within each community, the knowledge, experience that help us to understand not only in the challenges in each community, but also the innovative ways to answer those challenges, such as, for example, the lack of digital skills development, low connectivity, or lack of capital. Our allies work with us to guarantee that the content answers the need of Latin American women, so that content has a local value. One of the things at the beginning of the pandemic was the transition towards the hybrid or digital worlds. We had to do some structural changes and strategic changes in order to have a longer reach. For example, in Colombia, we adapted workshops from face-to-face to online workshops, and we were able to improve in that sense. And we know that there have been some different responsibilities for women, such as taking care of children, the house and everything. But together with our allies, what we did was to adapt these situations so that women could do things online, and if they had to take care of some other responsibility, they could came back to the training later on and not stop training at all. So in Facebook, we were able to adapt our resources for the on-demand content so that women could take advantage of the educational training at their own pace and according to their own needs. Thanks. I'm thinking about this idea of co-designing, of considering the preferences, the challenges. It's a great experience. Thank you. Now I'm going to give the floor to Désireé. How can women companies' digitalization can help improve their
thank you, Elena. So
process?
What you're asking is really how can the digitization of women's businesses and enterprises improve their access to finance? And I believe we are now touching an important level where we believe that not all businesses are online, and now everyone post-COVID is moving online, and we have witnessed that there's been a huge forced digitization, and that women are understanding the opportunities and business opportunities that are there. And therefore, the capacities that are needed to be built are certainly those that would see whether a digitalized business as such would also have a better chances of getting access to finance. And I do not know of any particular examples. I do know that some in countries in the region, in the Southeast European region, where I also do a lot of work, is that there has been a lot of good changes in terms of the fact that women are digitizing their businesses and that are getting access to finance. Now, we don't have to think of there are so many business models online, and a digitized business model has to still be proven for an investor to invest in this entrepreneurial side of engagement to close the gender digital gap. And while I think that it could enormously help, it could certainly enormously help. I also think, and have to go back to this idea of a role model, we need to change this view that women are successful entrepreneurs as well. And unfortunately, we don't have that many models to look forward to. When you look at the CEOs of Apple, Google, Facebook, you name it. There isn't a successful entrepreneur as a female role. And that brings this other question, whether the internet itself and digitization is actually somehow amplifying the patriarchal model, where power, money is something that gives you access to women. So we need to change some of these social values and the way how we look at it as well. Nevertheless, once we are successful with that and successful to have a good entrepreneur role model, for example, a woman who probably not many people have heard of, Carol Ellie. She was one who is an engineer. She was not an engineer, not a scientist, but a very successful entrepreneur in the ICT sector. So we come from all walks of life. And this is something especially that I think stakeholders should recognize the need to finance more business startups, and there are set up by women or girls or students if we want to change and be able in closing the gender gap.
Muchas gracias, Désireé.
Thank you, Désireé. Very valuable contributions. It is clear that this is a specific challenge, a huge challenge, and there's so much to do, from the biases that exist in order to give financing for women. This is something that we should focus on as regards technology, AI, and we need to be accountable and responsible, and to be diverse and to have inclusions, so that technology can help us to fight those biases. This is an important step that we should take. Isabel, which is the role of public policy as regards closing the gender digital gap? I'm sure that you have a lot to say about this. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible.
All right, we have our work to design our policies and all of that and implement our policy. A good example of our positive relation that there should be between gender equality and public policy is found in Iceland. Iceland ranks first in gender-based perspective, and it's a country that has 48% of its parliament made up of women. It's a country where its checkered history has laws promoting gender-based perspective and equality, speaking of strong women in society, and they pass laws that prohibit salary difference between men and women. When in Colombia we had 12.1% of difference, okay? That was negative for women, and it requires that 40% as public officials positions are taken by women, and also share leave, maternity leave, and this has resulted that the Icelanders right now have a good quality of life when compared to other European countries. They have one of the highest per capita income. The average salary are one of the highest of the world. It's the second unemployment rate, like lower than the rest of Europe, second best in Europe. So this was mentioned by the panelists. We're not speaking of public policy or rights guarantees, but also we're speaking of economic issues, discrimination related to gender goes against the development of countries. The Alliance of Technology and Services revealed that with greater participation of women in ICTs will account for an increase of 9 billion euros annually on GDP. So we are able to strike positive results and an optimum balance, especially when there's a large percentage of women in companies with their cross-functional teams or with equal teams. Is more transparent, is an organization that has access to sources of financing in a better way, just like you said, and Désireé said this as well. Our panelist from Facebook says that it creates a better labor atmosphere. They're more productive, they're more innovative, 15% more profitable. And if we increase 26% in the stock price, I mean 47% in the return of capital employed and 30% on the gross margins. So it's not that we're speaking about equality or gender guarantee, but a return that in turn is going to create a better quality of life, not only for Colombians, but for citizens across the world. Speaking of gender equality, is speaking of citizens equality in any country, but it's the same, or it's translated as better life expectancy, quality of life for people across the world. Let me tell you, Elena, that I am part of an organization of civil society in Colombia that is very important, that has deployed very important things on promotion of gender-based equality that is called Women ICTs. And we help girls and young women to have better access to the industry of telecommunications, or ICTs, that is an engine for driving new employment opportunities across the world. And also we help girls and women to be empowered and to be more effective when it comes to creating the necessary spaces in the ICT world. And we help them in the promotion and in the training of their own skills and competencies and technologies, so they could become efficient and effective when it comes to creating these spaces or be part of these spaces on ICTs. Thank you very much. It's great. It's great. I could have continued going on and on listening to you. These gender-based equalities are great, is fair, and is smart for governments and for corporations and for society. If not, we're losing many things because of the lack of including gender-based perspective or equality. Okay, I think that we have covered the topics of the panel, and let me go back to Olga, and probably she has questions in the Q&A session. Yes. Comments, questions from the audience. We have 500 students, especially from Latin America, and especially right now that we have an online translation service into English, we have people from abroad, from Asia, from Africa, from North America. Most of them are from Latin America anyways. My acknowledgements to the ICT girls and to Conectadas for your initiatives. We need to empower women. These are the comments written. A lot of great contributions for the inequalities always over in Mexico and Latin America. Maria Luján asked a question. She's from Colombia. She moderated a panel on wireless infrastructure. She says if there should be a cultural change, it's very important. What is the play that parents have to play to contribute, and what is key so that future adults can close this gender-based perspective? As a mother, for example, I say that we inherit and we bring things, biases, and then we convey it to our children. Sometimes unconsciously, or sometimes because of customs and uses, or because of the environment. So it's great. Women need more awareness, ICTs need role models, acknowledgements also, a cultural aspect that is deep, because the world in the ICT is usually led by men. But many times, because of what I discussed, and I've been involved in industry for some time, let's see if it's valuable for you to have quotas for equal participation of women. And we have widely discussed this when I was in the council or the board of directors of international organizations. And it's very difficult to have this topic. It's not really very well adopted or welcome. When I was young, I did not believe in quotas. I believe that my work, my dedication went hand in hand with achievements, but that never happened. And if we had quotas, I would have had better opportunities. So this is a question that I would like to propose to you. And also, Mabel says that I'm the exception to the rule here. But anyways, these are the questions. María Juliana asks, what is the mother's role that we should play in the education of our children? And I believe that the young generations, for example, my children are young adults right now, and they have embedded some elements of sharing chores and responsibilities, which still sometimes women take that kind of responsibility. But I believe that when they are younger, they're more prepared for this new world. Okay? Who would like to take this? I would like to take the helm here because cultural transformation is very important in any process, especially in the digital transformation process. When we're speaking of digital transformation, we're not speaking of cultural transformation or digital culture. We're condemning this initiative to be unsuccessful. So a gender-based perspective is better when we speak of cultural change. That is repetitive in this panel. We say how we transfer know-how to the girls, to the young women. That empowerment or that new route of gender-based perspective will allow young women to have better equality or to have that 50-50 balance to be more effective and quick and swift. Imagine, Elena, what we discussed, we still have a long way to go to get to that 50-50 society. So first, we need to start with that cultural transformation and to start discussing gender-based equality policies within companies, within schools as well, with our children, women and men alike, adults, with the elderly, with the heads of government and governments. So we need to create that know-how transfer in gender-based equality that could be pervasive in society and that could help us with these indicators in equality with men and women in our societies and in the future societies as well. I believe this is important, as you have clearly said. It's very relevant for us. In ICT Women, Elena, let me tell you that one of our initiatives that we have in place in our group, we're more than 300 women in Colombia, not only at the national level but at the local level. We are involved in creating that cultural transformation from the schools, from corporations, and also out of the organizations that we are representing in our teams, not only for young girls but also for young adults and women in their homes also, and we are going to impact that society of 50-50 that we so much desire. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Excellent. I believe that ARANTXA would like to say something before closing the remarks. ARANTXA? I just want to thank you for giving me the chance to be here with you today in the SSSIG. I would like to thank all the attendees that were here with us today as well. Thank you. Désireé.
Désireé, you can follow translation in the YouTube channel, but I was talking about, it's something that we have shared some spaces together, and we have talked about that having gender balance in leadership positions, and I have always talked about having, ¿cómo se dice cupo en inglés? Quota, thank you. Quota, for example, in board positions, or we have talked about this several times. Maybe you can share your thoughts with us.
Certainly. Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Elena. For the quick translation. Certainly, I think that there is something to aim towards in getting some quotas. We know in Europe there's always been a quota how many female board members there should be on the board, and that's been failing quite consistently, not just in the ICT sector, but across the board. I also understood a lot what Isabel was talking about, that it has to be this joint effort, and I agree what she was saying. I can't say it as nicely in Spanish, but quotas, we definitely see something is one of the pulls as the incentives for the private sector, but also for the non-for-profit sector and for the government to aim for as guidelines, maybe not as, and sometimes they have to be strictly coded in policies as well. Olga and I and another lady were the only ones on the board of 12 people, and women are always in majority. So it's very helpful, although we have this guidance for gender and diversity, not just gender diversity. These are all different skills, points of views, diversity that is expressed. And we need to strive towards some quotas, and we also have to be flexible, what's achievable, and so that people can work with. But definitely we need to search for equality, and these quotas should somehow reflect equality in the workplace, in other places, in social other fora that we participate, and we need to somehow train people to think like that. The first thing that comes to mind is there a balance? Is there a way how we can really support someone who is not thinking yet about this position, and she is a very good candidate? And I think women also have to think like that, and especially men. So we need a lot of changes, and quotas are a good thing in my view.
Thank you, Désireé. Yo quisiera comentar en relación a la participación.
Also, I would like to say, in connection with the participation, because there's a role played by women, because many times we're not as proactive in applying for positions or open positions because we believe that we're never going to be chosen. Within ICANN, we presented a survey, and Abdullah from Singapore, a board member there, talked with many members in selection capacity, and they say, well, women do not apply. If they never apply for a job, we're never going to be choosing women. So the thing is that women do not have as much time because of many reasons. That's why we do not apply for a job there. So we need to apply for a certain position, open positions. If we're not chosen, okay, that is, such is life. But we may be chosen. However, if we are never applying, that is never going to happen. So many colleagues eventually basically apply for positions and they were successfully chosen. So we play a key role in not only speaking but also taking a proactive role. Elena, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Olga. It's great. I totally agree with you. But let me tell you that we have a combination of actions. We require a combination of actions. We need to be proactive as women and taking more risks. That really helps. If we are not chosen, never mind. We need to seize the following opportunity. But on the other hand, on the other part, efforts need to be made because affirmative action is a collective useful tool. Hopefully, we will never depend on them, but there's a cultural barrier as well. And in the World Economic Forum makes a progress, a cultural transformation, but it's so slow that probably we will never see that, or our children or our grandchildren. And we need that to be quick, or a reality that will happen soon. And I believe that this may be useful. I mean, the implementation of quotas may be useful and it could drive that cultural transformation that we want to see, at least in our lives. Elena, to reinforce this concept along these lines in this panel, imagine that these quotas, this quota allocation, or these rules that target to quotas could be sexiest. But indeed, the country supported positively a progress made in gender equality. At this moment, as you say and as Désireé said, we require that. It's required by society so women can start enjoying those spaces that are created, but because of many reasons, sometimes we don't leverage that. It has taken many years to have empowerment, and we still have many years to go to position ourselves or to raise our voices or to find an important space in society. I believe that we need to pursue these policies, not only as I said in my presentation, because public policy there should be a tool, but also in private companies, because I have a gender perspective always, or gender equality. In private corporations, I deal with the board. Most of them are women. Imagine I work in the ICT industry, and sometimes I have raised my hand, and sometimes they shut me up, but I continue asking. So I continue to ask many things. So this experience in empowerment, I always speak of gender-based equality and the benefits of having women parity, creating innovation and more economic impact for the company, more gains. So this made us make a transformation significantly with civil society organizations that want to empower women in the different spheres, especially in an industry that is the ICT industry that is creating so many important spaces that require professionals or practitioners in technology, and only in Colombia 30% of these professionals are women. So these are important spaces, and promoting these policies of gender equality are so significant. They are necessary for leveraging these pathways of gender equality. That's why I advocate this, and hopefully we are going to see this dream become a reality pretty soon. Yes, and I believe that they promote cultural change. And I can cite many examples when you're required to find a woman for a certain position, it sets in motion many activities or more flexibility that it couldn't have happened otherwise. You may find an expert with the necessary profile, but she cannot be available 24/7. So there comes a flexibility. If she can do remote work, then she can attend if she can attend a meeting at 10 p.m. and things like that. And these are the sort of issues, organizational issues, that many times prevent women from joining those positions or taking those positions. And there are many networks by which you may find candidates for certain positions, but these are informal networks, and especially in male-driven industries. Networks usually recommend men, and women do not get wind of that. So basically, we are saved from these networks, and then we find other channels to find the right women, I believe that these quotas set in motion then this need or requirement to find a distinct way of finding different things, and this involves the cultural transformation that we so much desire. I totally agree with the quotas. I believe it's a mechanism that helps. When I was young, I didn't believe in that, but merit is not enough. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time, for your passion. I was really surprised by the numbers when you said about 2156, but hopefully our grandchildren will enjoy the change and the cultural transformation. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Stay safe and healthy.
Where are you? In Germany?
Yes, I'm in Europe, in Germany.
Oh, Berlin. Nice. I miss traveling, I miss meeting you. Espero verlas, las extraño, no me las encuentro, ahora solo virtual, así que hope to see you somewhere in the querida Elena, querida Isabel, ARANTXA creo que se nos fue porque nos
Isabel, ARANTXA, great to have you here. Greetings from you, greetings from Adriana, from your team, from Oscar, the president of CC Lab, and technicians that are here. We have like a TV broadcasting studio here. And this time hugs to all of you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. In 10 minutes, we are going to reconvene. That is on the future. Olga, no. Social networks, fake news, disinformation. So in 10 minutes, we should get back.